Hi everyone, welcome to our next video on Intro to CSS. Now remember, CSS is all about making the website look nice. The HTML defines how this stuff is all on the page. The CSS is saying, okay, let's actually provide some styles. Remember, it stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Okay, so the way that we actually write CSS is that we have to make a CSS file. So inside of your folder, create another file. Make sure it's in the same folder as the index.html. I'm just going to call it index.css. So you should save it as a .css file, and that's the key. Okay, cool. Now, before we actually apply any styles, we have to import our CSS into the HTML. Now, the way that you import CSS is by, as I mentioned earlier in one of the last videos, putting it inside of the head. Now you do this using a specific type of importing tag. Now it's something which I always forget, so I usually Google it, and this is a really good point that a lot of web development is not just remembering things and just coding, as you might think it is in things like Python and stuff like that. Instead, we actually do a lot of consulting the internet to try and refresh our memory and see how things should be done. So the way that I'm going to do this is say, how to import CSS into HTML. And this first link looks good, w3schools.com. They're not always the best resource, but they usually can provide the basic things you need. So okay, here it shows how to link CSS into your HTML. So I'm just going to grab that, copy, and paste it right into the head. Make sure it's inside of the head. And so what it is a link tag. And as you can see, it has an attribute where type is equal to CSS. Now href is the key. The href is basically asking for a link, or more specifically a path to index.css starting from wherever this file is. So index.html is in the same folder as index.css. So all that we have to write here is index.css, and it should be able to find it. Let's say that index.css was inside of the CSS folder, then we'd have to do something like CSS slash excuse me CSS slash index.css. So now that we've imported our CSS, we have to actually apply styles to things on the page. Now there's many ways that you can apply styles. For instance, one way is that you can use the actual tag and identify the things to apply the styles to based on the tag. So for instance, in my index.css, let's say that I want all of the h1s to be blue text. I'm going to do h1, which is the HTML tag, and then you create open brackets, close brackets, and then you essentially just do attribute : value. So if I want to change the text color, I just do color, and let's say I make it blue. So now, when I go to my index page, okay, so we ran into a problem. Notice how it did not make it blue. So we thought that it would, and so it ran into a problem. So oftentimes when this happens, what you want to do is actually inspect element, look at the console, and see how it wasn't able to find the resource. Oh, because here I didn't actually take away CSS slash. So if I go back, it's just index.css. And now, notice how it's blue, which is awesome. Similarly, I can make the background of the paragraphs different, so stuff like that. But now let's say that we want to apply a style to a div. Now the thing is that we use the divs here as posts, but they could be used anywhere else as anything else. So what we need to do is a way to actually select each of these individually and apply a style to all of them. So the way that we do that is that we give these a class. To give a div a class, all you do is provide an attribute in the opening tag. So I'm going to say class equals, and we'll call it a post. So each of these divs, I'm going to give them the post class. What this means is that when I apply a style to the post class, it'll apply to each of these divs. So I go here, and the way that I select that class is I put a period and then the name of the class, so dot post, and then I apply styles. So let's say that I want the background color to be red, because that's my favorite color, and I want the font size to be 14 pixels. So now if I go to my page, notice how the background color is all red for each post individually, and then the font size is 14 pixels, just as I asked. But now let's say that the first post is, I'm super proud about the website that I created for this website that we're currently making, and I really want that one to have larger font because it means a lot to me. So what I'm going to do is actually, because the problem is I can't give the post class more styles because it'll apply to all of them, but I need a way to specifically target this post. So what I can do is actually give it an ID. So let's say ID equals website post. And now I can apply styles to this ID, and it'll only apply those styles to this post. So you apply a style to an ID by doing hashtag the name of the ID. So hashtag website post. And here I'm going to make the font size 20 pixels because I just really like this website. So I go, and now look at how the text for my website post is larger than the text for Google or Facebook. So far, we've been able to provide styles to tags, such as this header. We've been able to give classes to our divs, and you can also give classes to other things and apply styles to each of those classes. So now all three of these posts have styles. And then finally, you can put an ID on an HTML tag and actually apply a style directly to that single tag that has that ID. So these are the basics of how we go over actually providing styles in our CSS. As you saw when I was using Sublime, when you type things in, like let's say, it's basically just a bunch of different styles that you can apply, and whenever you want to do a specific thing, you basically just have to Google around until you find that thing that you need and see how other people did it. The great thing about the internet is that a lot of people have been using it to web develop, so someone's probably tried what you're trying to do. It's just a matter of finding it. And a lot of it's really intuitive. So let's say that we want the posts to have a border. So all I have to do is say border, let's say border width, I'll make it 2 pixels, border style solid, border color, we're going to make it blue. And just like that, if I go look at it, I now have borders on all my posts. So as you can see, it's pretty simple using CSS. It's not a language like Python or, as we'll see later, JavaScript, but it's something very powerful because it allows us to apply styles to the page. In the next video, we're going to be looking at a specific way that we can change the styles using the inspector. And then after that, we're going to be looking at a CSS framework called Bootstrap, which will allow us to actually do things like make our posts side by side and also have a lot of out-of-the-box functionality to make the website look really nice.